right. Good evening to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon, or I suppose you could also say good evening to those of you on the West Coast as well. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And as you can see from the title, we have a terrific guest, on tap for you guys. She is one of the stars of, as you saw on the poster back there for the Righteous Gemstones. It is my pleasure to welcome Chloe Tracios. Let me bring her on now.
Hi.
Chloe, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, first and foremost, welcome, to Movers and Shakers. Thank you so much for, hopping on. I'll start, just to get us started with everything that's going on in the world, and now that things are starting to open up, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great, Brandon. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So, just hitting the ground running, and I know this has been, discussed before, but I do want to get into it because I do find it fascinating. Is just can you comment on in doing some research about your upbringing and having that background with your parents, with your dad, with being an athlete and your mom, being an artist. Can you talk a bit about, what it was like to, grow up in that household? Because that's quite a dynamic difference between, what, both parents, are doing for a living.
Right. Well, yeah, no, I mean, it was great. I mean, both my parents are pretty unique individuals. Both of them are leaders. And my dad used to play cricket for Zimbabwe. And my mom is an artist. I mean, I think the thing that strikes me most when remembering my childhood is that I sucked at both cricket and paint. So it was always like I couldn't win. So the gym coach would always say to me, "Oh, your dad's a cricketer," and the art teacher would always say to me, "Your mom's an artist." So I kind of didn't do well in either, but it was I mean, it was a very it was a very good childhood growing up in Zimbabwe. It was a very carefree life, and and as I said, both my parents are individuals, and they encouraged me to pursue my love of making films and acting. So I am very, have been very lucky.
All right, awesome. And I mean, I know it's no stranger to you, of how the last 2 years have been. We're starting to, come out of that tunnel, so to speak, now, slowly but surely. But, as someone who, writes, material and produces, can you talk a bit about how it was trying to navigate through that, during that time? Because I mean, even under the best circumstances, even under circumstances where, you're working with you have the backing of a major studio, even under those circumstances, things were very difficult. So can you talk a bit about that, of doing it, in very, much smaller circumstances? Well,
Sure.
independently.
No, I mean, well, we were very lucky in that we wrapped shooting my movie Introducing Jodea. We wrapped the week before lockdown.
Okay.
And we only had one shot left to get. So it actually was perfect timing. So we kind of worked on the edit during lockdown. The editor was based in Australia. I'm in California.
Nice. Okay.
And so we were able to actually work during that period, which was great. Otherwise, I'd have gone crazy. And then once lockdown started to end, then we finally grabbed the last scene that we needed to get. But the editor, he edited the whole thing and then just left the space for that scene, which we just put in. So that kind of kept me sane during that period, because it was just, it was just horrible not being able to go out. I mean, I don't know what I would have done had it happened midway through the shoot or something. That would have been terrible. But yes, so thankfully, there are jobs that you can do during the COVID period, and writing's one of them. I did a lot of writing during that period.
I was going to ask. I was like, I'm sure there was plenty of extra, additional time to write.
Oh yeah, there was, and there was and then working on the edit of this project, and so there was that's kind of, I guess, what you have to do in these situations is make the best out of a bad situation. Otherwise, I mean, when you're helpless and there's nothing you can do, it's kind of, there really was nothing you could do in COVID. So it was just kind of see what you can do to make things better.
Sure, absolutely. And in terms of carrying the other hat of, of being a producer as well, a lot of times in instances of that, you are also kind of guiding its, a project's journey to the masses, and whether it's in film festivals and various places for it to be seen. I'm sure under those circumstances, it was very interesting too. I know with other folks, that are, whether they are producers, whether they're writers, whether they're filmmakers, they had commented on how tricky it was to kind of navigate doing a film festival virtually.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure in many cases versus having the luxury of doing it in person. So can you
I know.
comment on that and
Well,
that difference?
I mean, I didn't organize any film festivals or anything, but it was just I kind of say it kind of sucked. My movie, we won I won Best Actress at the New York International Film Festival, New York City International Film Festival, and I got it was all an award ceremony over Zoom. So that was my first award I got on Zoom. Which I mean, it was like, the director of the festival made it as pleasant as possible and tried to make it as real as possible. Like, I think he was in his house, but he had like the banner behind him and everything. And I got everyone in the film and all my friends and everyone to tune in so that they could watch it. And yeah, I mean, look, it was good. I mean, I guess the huge advantage of that, you could say, was that I could get, normally at a normal festival ceremony, people wouldn't be able to make it unless they were, invited. But that way I could have friends all over the world see it. So that was a huge advantage.
Sure.
So yeah, but yeah, that was the tricky thing. And I just, let's hope this is all behind us.
Yeah, because the only reason why I bring that up is because, as someone who is an avid festival attendee, there's something to be said, intangible, that you can't really replace, of being able to socialize, with, the artists that are there, and to be able to network. So many things happen in that, those interactions that happen, after a film or with some of like after parties and stuff. So
I know it is. It's you do miss that during COVID. It is just so nice to go to that, to actually be there and mingle afterwards. And yeah, like that.
Awesome. And switching gears, obviously you can see it in the background there of the Righteous Gemstones. So I have, I wanted to get into it briefly. I know there's not much that you can say, obviously, but still, I wanted to still comment on, because in doing research of, can you talk a bit again of getting involved with the show? Because I feel like there's an interesting anecdote that you have with auditioning for the show, and how that all came about. So are you able to share?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was actually I got the audition, and I had to film it on the Sunday, and it was just really and I shot it on the Sunday, emailed it to my agent that night, and then I don't think I've ever auditioned for anything before and gotten the role right away. It's usually there's a callback, a second callback.
Of course, yes.
And then, and it was just on the Tuesday, I was having lunch with a friend, and my agent messaged me to say, she said, check your emails urgently. And I checked them, and they said, and the email said, yep, she's the perfect fit for Gloria. And I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that was like, the first, that was incredible. So I was really thrilled when that happened.
And speaking, to that character, you've commented on how the journey has been of being in the periphery to start, and how that's transformed as that character story has continued. So can you talk a bit about that, of having that progression continue to happen as the series has continued?
Sure. I mean, so like I was in season 1, I was just the character Walton Goggins' wife, and the mother of our son Harmon, and didn't really. I mean, it was just a cute little flashback episode, and then when they called me back for season 2, that episode's much more profound, much darker, and it's about how we get, myself and my screen son Harmon get abandoned by baby Billy, Walton's character, and which ends up having, if you watch the series, consequences, because Harmon grows up into not such a nice person, and yeah, so it's kind of, and I was actually quite touched at a lot of the reaction I was getting from that, because a lot of people who saw that just had so much sympathy for my character and for my screen son, because I mean, it is quite, I know when we shot it, I got quite emotional. Jeremy Thomas, who plays Harmon, is just a fantastic little actor, and it actually is quite. I actually did get quite emotional in the scene when he runs out of the pet store and looks for his dad, and it's quite heartbreaking. But yeah, so it's kind of like, so yeah, you could say my character's gone from sort of a character who you don't really think about, she's just the fourth wife of baby Billy, to being kind of a tragic figure who's sort of abandoned and raises her son alone.
Absolutely. And speaking to, what you were just saying just now, uh, there, I feel like there's a fine line to kind of find that balance between, the comedy or the humor, and
Mm.
still have that degree of, of drama.
Yes,
So,
yes.
can you speak to that, and how, you know, you being a writer, and just that idea of having,
Mm.
such an being in such an effective show that allows you to kind of play with those different, different things in a very, unique way, because it's not easy to be able to kind of juggle between those two things.
Sure, sure. No, no, you're right. I mean, when we shot the scene, I was very much in the mood for the character. At the time, I was hating my husband. I'm angry at him, and so I was very much. And then and he's yelling at me in the scene and all. And then so it wasn't funny when we were shooting it. It was quite serious. And as I said, I got quite emotional. Um, at the end. But when I saw it on screen, I was just cracking up laughing. I mean, Walton Goggins' improv and the lines he was saying to me were really so funny. But yeah, but when you shoot it, and I think that's part of the thing as an actor, you kind of have to step away a little from the full thing, and you have to kind of see it as your character would see it. So, and be in the moment, because my character is not a happy woman in that scene, and it's not a happy scene for her. But looking at it all together from the outside, yep, it's a comedy scene.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I said, I know there's obviously, nothing that you can really say, but if you could be able to comment, at least in a word of something that you are looking forward to viewers being able to enjoy, out of, the upcoming season, what is something that, if you were to sum it up in a word, that you are really looking forward to, perhaps.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't think I'm allowed to say anything, and I also know very very little. It's also
Okay,
like they honestly, you just see the episode you're in. That's it. So I couldn't tell you even if I wanted to.
gotcha,
But
gotcha,
I
gotcha.
think, I mean, from seeing what Danny McBride has said about it, and he spoke about it publicly the other day, it looks, again, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, I mean, I think it's a great show.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to close, in talking about, I know we were talking about in the beginning of the interview of, how things were very limited, and now things are starting to open up now.
Yes.
Um, are you able to also, shed light on, things that perhaps were, weren't necessarily available, perhaps, I want to
Mm.
say maybe 6 months ago, that are now available to you now, as as an actor, that you are now excited to be able to, continue doing.
Oh yeah. I mean, look,
Um,
yeah.
but
I mean, look, it's just great to be able to, be able to go out to event, to be able to show up on set without a mask on, which is great. And just just things, just like I mean, just not just with acting, with everything, just to be able to have that personal contact with people again. And but yeah, but definitely on the acting side, on the film side, it's great to I mean, obviously, all productions, from the little low budget ones I do to the big productions, always have to be careful of COVID. Like, like we couldn't I shot a little pilot earlier this year, but it was just, we had, everybody on it had to be vaccinated. So that's always going to stay, I think. But it's just great to be able to just sort of kind of be back in that environment where you can kind of be with your fellow actors, be one-on-one with them, be able to touch each other again, kind of thing. That's, that's, that's a good thing. And that's the kind of thing I've missed.
and then I was going to say the second part of that too, and not just asking, other folks that are, content creators, those that are, actors, writers, directors, what have you. Um, there there were, you know, perhaps certain aspects to their job that, you know, they had to adjust to, you know, during that time. And now that we're out of it, they're still going to hold on to pieces of that. So, like, giving you an example, you know, you may have some actors that perhaps they weren't really looking into a whole bunch of voice work, but because in that time they were doing a lot of it, they're going to continue to do more of it now, even now that they're going back to normal, so to speak. So are there, in that regard, are there any things, you know, in terms of your skill set that perhaps you were doing a bit of when things were more limited, and now that we're starting to return back to normal, that you now are saying, you know what, I'm going to keep that and I'm going to continue doing that and still have that kind of in my toolbox, so to speak, as, you know, an additional thing that I'm going to do?
Well, no, I mean, not really, because I mean, I've always been writing, and
Sure,
so I'm just, I mean, I'm still doing what I was doing, just writing, and yeah,
or
yeah.
maybe even the way that you approach it, maybe, I don't know,
I
in
mean, yeah,
terms of like the capacity. Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just, it's kind of, I mean, the one thing I have been doing less of, I used to always write in like a cafe, like a Starbucks or a Coffee Bean. Now I just tend to write at home. Um,
Gotcha.
but it's mostly, but yeah, mostly, I mean, I'm still pretty much doing what I was doing before. And it's, yeah. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I've got my cat here and she's flicking her tail.
It's
So
okay. It's
that's like,
okay. It's all good. All good.
she doesn't like me paying attention to anyone other than her.
No worries. No worries. Well, on that note, I'm gonna give your cat opportunity to have you back, but I want to thank you so much, Chloe, for, you know, hopping on and you know, talking about, you know, the goings on of all the awesome things that you're doing. So before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Absolutely. You know, on my Instagram is Chloe Tracios official. That's Chloe Tracios _ official. And yeah, and then my latest movie introducing Jodea can be found on Tubi TV, which is free watching, and you don't need to sign up to join. I mean, it's also available on Amazon, iTunes, and all of them. But if you can access Tubi, it's much easier. So yeah, it's introducing Jodea.
All right, awesome. Well, again, Chloe, thank you so much
Thank
for,
you.
you know, hopping on. For those of you watching, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and I'll see you soon. Bye.